Welcome back, traders. In this video, I'm going to be showing you guys how you can use trend lines in your trading. And this all comes down to just understanding structure. And I know you guys are probably tired of hearing me say that. And the true reason why I say this all the time is because my strategy, my whole approach is market structure, liquidity, and just pure price action and just looking at how candles are forming. And guys, so trend lines are going to be ultimately the same because they are based off of structure when you draw them. So I wanted to make this video for my people who love trend lines because I know some people love them, some people don't, but because this course is very, inclusive for everyone who, whichever background you're coming from, whether you've been in the markets for a while, you're just learning, I wanted you guys to have this video in case you actually want to use it in your own trading. And so this always comes back down to understanding the basics of market structure for buys and market structure for sells. So, guys, anytime you think about drawing trend lines for buys, it is always going to be on the lows. Okay. So, we're in the uptrend direction. Okay. So, it's going to be on the lows. The reason why this is, guys, is because when we are trying to confirm trend direction, this will allow us to determine if we are changing from bullish to bearish, right? And the reason is just the saying of higher highs and higher lows, right? We know that bullish market structure creates higher highs and higher lows. But let's just say we started breaking some lows, guys. If we started breaking the higher lows or the lows that were created in bullish structure, guys, what do you think price is doing then? We're breaking lows. We're not supposed to break lows because the lows are supposed to be higher. They're higher lows. So once we start breaking lows in bullish structure, that can tell us that, okay, maybe we are weak now. We are weak for buys. We're weak in the uptrend direction. Maybe it might be time to start selling. That's like saying, okay, we start breaking lows. Now that shifts us to maybe what? Okay, lower lows and lower highs. If we start breaking lows, that is price that low that was broken, or when we break lows, we're creating a lower low. Isn't that bearish market structure? It is, right? And so the reason why we can draw our trend line for buys at the lows is because it will allow us to confirm that higher highs and higher lows are truly happening. It's happening, right? Because once we shift and we start breaking the lows that are here, so for example, something like this is a higher low, but okay, we're gonna just call it a low because that's essentially what it is. It's a low, right? If we start breaking this low and market structure starts coming back down here, guys, what is this low that's being created here then? It'd be a lower low. Why? Because we're lower than this one. So that could maybe cause price to do what? Continue pushing down. So by drawing your trend line at the bottom, guys, you are able to ensure that this structure, bullish market structure, is truly being formed. So when you draw your trend line, the rule of thumb is to make sure you have at least two touches on your zone. And of course, guys, market structure is not going to be just this perfect, right? I drew this. I made sure this was perfect. But sometimes we might have some dips in like this, but as long as we have two touches minimum, then this trend line is valid, okay? When you're drawing trend lines for sells, it is going to be at the top. It's going to be on highs, right? So I'm just going to do something similar for my. So when you draw trend line for sells, they're usually going to be at highs, right? And why is that, guys? The same reason for bullish market structure. Wouldn't you guys say once we start breaking highs, right? Isn't that price potentially creating a higher high? And that's not what bearish market structure does. We established that bearish market structure creates lower lows and lower highs, right? So if we start breaking all these highs here, so maybe this one here and even this one here, and yes, these are lower highs, but okay, we can essentially call them highs, of course. If we start breaking these ones and even this one here, right? What is this? What would this be? It's a higher high. It is higher than this high here, right? And we could potentially continue pushing up, right? This high is higher than this high here. And that's not, and we don't want that in bearish market structure. We do not want highs broken and bearish market structure. So that is essentially the reasoning why you draw your trend line on the highs for sells and on the lows for buys. And the reason why I wanted you guys to understand that is because I am a big believer in understanding why you do things instead of just, hey, this is what you do, just do it, okay? Because at the end of the day, like I always say, when you know more and you have more knowledge behind things, it makes it 10 times easier to understand. And you guys do not have to force it. I know a lot of people, they want so many touches on their trend line that they might even just move it slightly just to get the touches in. Guys, do not do this. As long as you have two touches on the zone, right? And it can be in a form of wicks, it can be a candle body, whatever it is. As long as you have minimum two touches, that trend line can be considered valid, right? So let me show you guys some examples on the chart. On my blue stuff, oh, that's a little too blue for me. Let's just do yellow. All the yellow stuff is going to be our bearish market structure. And okay, bearish market structure. All right. So what did I say? How do you draw trend lines when it comes to sells? You draw it on the top, all right? It's the top. So I know a lot of people, they either like to pay attention to current price action, so in their trading range, so here to here, or they will draw the overall trend as a trend line. That being said, that means I'd be looking at this whole box if I wanted to draw the overall trend, right? So essentially, they would draw it from some type of high, right, to another high. One touch here, second touch here. Everything else below that, I don't really care. As long as I got those two touches on there, all I'm doing is just dragging it all the way down, right? All the way down. Okay? So, do you guys notice how when we started, coming here, right? We created this low here. And then we ended up coming up, coming up, coming up, and we started breaking highs, right? We had a lower high in this area, and then we started breaking it, which turned the trend direction what? Bullish. And once we break structure here, once we break this trend line, right? Okay, so let me just do it my normal color. So once we break this trend line, guys, this may help us confirm that the trend direction is changing from what? Bearish to bullish, and we could get in for temporary buys. And again, even if you got in for buys here, you are always paying attention to structure, right? Even if you're always paying attention to structure. So this might not be a huge buy for you, but there's a reason that price retraced from this point here. And when you watch my advanced market structure video, when you watch all my videos about, hunting for liquidity or, all those type of things, this should make sense as to why we retraced here. Okay, but let's just continue talking about trend lines. So it broke here, shift trend direction, beautiful, and then it came back to test the trend line and then continue pushing up. So the reason why trend lines can actually be powerful is one, it can help validate that, okay, the trend is actually still going in the bearish direction if we were thinking, okay, let's draw it for the sells, right? Okay, and once we break it, this can help us confirm what trend direction for, buys, because if we break it, we are anticipating just based off of market structure that price is going to come and test near the trend line so we can get in for buys. And why does this actually happen, guys? The reason why a lot of people see that, okay, they notice that price ends up testing the trend line again is market structure, guys. What is this here? This is a previous high. Previous highs love to be tested to create a higher low HL in bullish market structure. And do you guys see how we came up, came back down to the trend line, right? We tested the trend line or we tested previous price to then continue pushing up. So this is how trendline traders trade. They just wait for breakouts, right? a retest on the trend line, or they ensure that price respects their trend line. And anything that happens as far as price action, as long as we stay near the trend line, okay, so maybe we come here, or even lower than the trend line, we are still going to be in what? Bearish market structure. So as long as we stay under this, this is where trend line traders be like, okay, we are staying under this trend line. We are respecting highs and we are breaking lows. I don't care what happens as far as price action, as long as we stay below this trend line, I am going to be looking for sells in some type of zone or area. But once we break it, I'm going to start shifting what I see. I might be like, okay, we ended up breaking the trend line. That means we might be breaking structure and changing trend direction. So that means I might have to shift my, my bias from sellers to buyers, right? And the confirmations are usually going to be a break and a retest of the trend line. But this is back just from market structure. And if you guys don't understand that point of why previous highs or this level got tested, guys, watch my advanced market structure video, right? Watch my market structure video in general, and it should make a lot of sense. Okay? So, like I said, if you don't want to draw the overall trend, like all this whole price action, right? From this trend line, from this high to all the way down, right? Just making sure we get two touches and then everything else doesn't matter. As long as we have our two touches that are straight, just drag it across, right? We have our two touches. Beautiful. If you guys don't want to do that and you want to focus in on a smaller price action area, you can do that as well. Let's just say we did this, all right? And we said the same thing. As long as we stay below this trend line and we respect any structure that's being created in this area, we are going to be what? Bearish, right? And then once we break the trend line, what's going to happen, right? We might be shifting trend direction. And this is where trend line traders come in. They're like, okay, I don't care what price action is created in this area, okay? We're going to be selling. We're going to have sell bias until we break it. And once we break it, I expect for price to retrace near the trend line to then, reverse in the opposite direction. But why does this happen? It happens because of what I always say. Previous highs in a bullish market love to be tested. And it just happens to be where the trend line is, right? And guys, don't get so specific with how you draw your trend lines, okay? As long as you have a high, okay, if you're talking about sellers, right? You have a high being tapped in, right? So you identified a high, okay? Then you look and see if another touch is on the trend line when you drag it. Boom, you do. And then you just continue dragging it so it's just, passing price. So we have it this long, right? We don't want to end it. We can end it here, but we just want it to just pass price, right? And then what? We see what price does what? Breaks it, right? And this is where traders like, "Ooh, you know what? We are no longer respecting this trend line. We could be shifting trend direction." Okay, so as long as we come back here and retest and we hold, okay, we're testing a previous high, we're holding. If we hold here, guys, and then we start what? Breaking all these highs, this one even here, and even this one, where price has been respecting the trend line, what do you think is going to happen? We are going to continue pushing up for buys. But the reason why trend lines get tested is because of market structure. So you can use them, but you don't always have to. They are a choice, okay? They're what some people like to use them, some people don't. But at the end of the day, it's all the same stuff. If you can understand the structure behind things, then trend line traders or trend lines should make sense. Or even if you just remove this trend line, it should make sense as to why we're doing what? Testing at this level, right? Because essentially, what are we doing, guys? It's just this. It's just this. It's just this, right? We're testing what? Previous highs here to test what? In this area to create a higher low, right? What are we seeing? Price is testing a previous high to create a higher low to continue pushing up. Once I drag it straight across, I do not want to adjust it. I want to see how valid the trend line is just from this high here. Well, we tested this here. Boom. That's a pretty valid trend line then. We got one, two, we got even three touches. this trend line is valid. And I drag it all the way across because I just want to ensure that we are passing the price action that's created. Just for it to be a little bit more clear for me, okay? If you want to end it a little bit earlier, you can 100% do so. Okay, then we did what? We broke it, guys. We retested, but what are we retesting? A previous high. And then we're continuing pushing up. Guys, if you don't understand this, please watch my market structure video. Both my bullish, bearish, and sideways markets in my advanced market structure part 1 and part 2 to this. So remember I said you can either look at the full overall trend. So meaning, we're actually looking at more price action like this, or you can just look at a trading range. So meaning you're looking maybe from this low here to this high here as your range. You're only looking maybe at current price or whatever. Or you can go all the way down here, okay? And remember, the way you draw them on the higher time frame, like the 4 hour, the daily, the 2 hour, the 1 hour, it's the same way you draw it on the lower time frame, like the 30, the 15, the 5. It is the same thing. So if you're questioning, I'm like, Meeks, wait, what time frame do I actually draw this on? Any time frame. Because at the end of the day, this structure is going to be the exact same on what? The lower time frame. But what do you think it's going to be? It's all it's going to be is way more candlesticks than this, right? Way more candlesticks than this. But it's essentially the same thing. So you're looking for the same thing. Identifying a high when you're drawing trend lines for sells, then just dragging it like as straight as possible down, seeing how many touches we get, and making sure that, price is actually respecting the trend line, either staying slightly below it or, tapping into it but not breaking. Okay. As far as buys, what you're looking for, you're identifying a low. Then you're just going to drag it across as straight as you can. Once you draw one low, just drag it straight across. Do not try and play around with it, trying to get as many touches as you can. Just drag it straight across and see how it looks. Okay? A trend line will validate itself. You don't have to do too much. That's what a lot of people try to force it. Just draw one low and just drag it straight across and watch it just create itself essentially, right? So back to this example for buys, guys. We have a trend line here, okay? Beautiful testing here, tested there, right? Two touches, and I just dragged it straight across. And then we had a strong impulsive move, and then we still created, we're still respecting the trend line. We're not breaking, we're staying above it. Okay, we are good. All right, but then what do we see, guys? This is why we draw it at lows for buys, because it can help us recognize shift and trend direction. Do you see how it broke this level, guys? It broke the trend line, and then it came back to test in the area of the trend line. Why did this happen? Similar for sells, lows are where what? Lows are where price likes to retest to create a lower high in bearish market structure. So this is why we're testing this trend line. And this is essentially why people who don't even use trend lines know we're going to get a retest there. Breaks of structure and retest traders, they understand how market structure is formed. Seeing this structure being formed, guys, seeing this sell, right? So price coming here, breaking, testing here, right? Creating a low here, okay? Creating a lower high here, okay? And then starting creating market structure, beautiful, beautiful, is essentially the same thing as this. It's the same thing. Maybe not as pretty, but it's the same thing, right? We are going to do what? This is a low here, right? So we are going to test in that area to create a lower high. Then we're going to break the next low. Then we're going to test in that area to create a lower high. And then sometimes when we talk about liquidity, we might even get close to that high. We might take it out and then continue the sell trend, whatever. But just know this is how structure is. And this is why you draw it at the lows for buys, because as long as we respect the trend line, you know it's going up. But once we start breaking it, that is when we might be shifting trend direction. As long as price is what? Breaking lows and respecting highs, the shift in trend direction can be confirmed. And you want to make sure it's continuously. Because remember, sometimes price may just come there, to just fake people out or, kind of bait traders to, think it's going to actually sell when in fact it's just, it ended up just coming a little lower, maybe had to get some strength, wasn't strong enough to continue pushing up yet, to maybe then reversing the opposite in reversing into the opposite direction. So just be mindful of that because that can also happen as well. But guys, I just wanted you guys to understand how you can use Trendline in your trading. You can choose if you want to use them. They are great for a lot of people, but some people just might not like them. It's all up to you at the end of the day. Thank you guys for watching.